Marvin Childress.
So, I could easily have been called an introvert. No, I was an introvert, through and through. Somewhat withdrawn. My only social life was studying. My home life was studying. I did not relate to family. Did not relate to classmates. I went to several different schools because we were very poor. And my mother was always chasing cheaper rents. So I never had more than one friend. Then in high school, a bonanza. I had 3 friends, but only at school. We were a group, but we hung out in twos. Herbert and I, in my first year, we actually graduated from grade school together and were friends there. Then Jethro and I, my second year, and Rigo and I, my third year. Well, we still all hung out together, and my last year we were more a foursome than twosomes. Herbert and Rigo were basketball stars, and of course, they had girlfriends. I liked Rigo's sister, but never said so. Didn't know how. I never knew how to rap to a girl. That's what we called it. The kinds of stuff I read were about ESP or by Sigmund Freud. I had a girlfriend my last year of high school, but I don't know how. I think she picked me. Once when we visited my grandmother, and my grandmother asked my girlfriend, "Does Marvin talk to you?" Oh boy, way to go, Granny. In college, a disaster. I didn't know how to talk to a girl or about what. I would go to the dorm, page dinner, and she would come down and I would just sit there with nary a word. Well, Dana went off and got herself pregnant. I guess somebody knew how to talk to her. And the telephone, the memory even now is painful. I would phone some girl, she'd answer, I'd say, "It's Marvin." Then the god-awful silence. So in my social life in college, I played on the tennis team, but tennis is not a team sport. By the fickle finger of fate, I joined the right fraternity and had my usual one friend, Donald Edwards, whom I called Ed, and of course, being the only, he was my best friend and still is. He's sitting right there. Then, in my senior year, I took a course called The Modern European Novel. I read Steppenwolf by Hermann Hesse, Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce, Lafcadio's Adventures by André Gide, who told me, "Be faithful to that which exists nowhere but in yourself." That got me in trouble in college when I refused to lie about attending a scandalous party. He also said that everything was about intellectual honesty and being fully oneself. Cool. I read The Royal Way by André Malraux, and of course, The Age of Reason by Jean-Paul Sartre, who told me, "You are what you do." Really cool. And the freedom was the ultimate aim of human existence. All existentialist writers, the thoughts, the philosophies were breathtaking. The "you are what you do" became my mantra. I suddenly saw people differently. I saw myself differently. I could talk to them about anything. I wanted to talk to them. I realized it's not about me talking to them, it's about them talking. It's about them talking to me and wanting to talk to me. A timely question here, a knowing nod there, a well-placed or tapped and have the infinite capacity to shut up and listen. It was no longer I in relationship to people, but people in relationship to me. Without this class, I'm sure I would have become an accountant or an actuary. Not that there's anything wrong with it. My jobs, for the most part, have been people jobs. I taught school, I taught people to pass apprenticeship exams, I taught math to women prison inmates. I've interviewed people for jobs where Childress, you are what you do, helped me immensely. For example, if you've never told a lie and then tell one, you're a liar. So in my interviews, I would believe everything the applicant said, but if I discovered a lie, I would believe nothing. I've studied and I can speak 5 languages. Currently, I teach tennis and golf and Spanish. Dating. At one point, I was dating 3 women at the same time, all living in Oak Park where I lived. Jan knew about Arlette. Arlette knew about Jan, and Joyce knew about Jan. Jan was a colleague at the U of I Med Center. Arlette also worked at the Med Center, where she was from Paris and about 20 years older than I was. And Joyce was one of my tennis students, divorced, the mother of a 5-year-old. This went on for about 4 years. And then I started to see a 4th lady. Can you imagine how exhausting and draining this was? Well, no matter. The deal breaker happened one morning when I left Jan's place. I discovered a message from Joyce written in lipstick on my windshield. It said, "I know where you are." I thought this was the perfect time to fulfill my ambition to go and live in Germany. So I went and taught in Germany and Austria, and limited myself to 1 relationship in Austria. My jobs and relationships have been a kind of validation of the change those books caused in me. But my true moment of redemption came when I was a senior, working in the college library. Jane, who was my boss, said something to me that would have insulted or embarrassed anybody. But for me, it was the supreme compliment. She said, "Mr. Childress, you talk too much."